What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. We're gonna jump right back into the project here today. Don't know how much work I'm gonna get done today exactly. It's supposed to get up to 102 and I don't have air conditioning in here, but thankfully, because it is insulated, it is only 79 in here at the moment, so I should be able to get at least a little bit of work done today. But it's a 3-day weekend, so we are gonna get quite a bit done over the course of the weekend. Off camera, I did do a little bit of thinking about this whole structural issue with the body not really being mounted to the car properly. And one thing I decided to do was, I wasn't initially planning on using these big 1/4-inch steel plates for the floor, but I think having those in there will just add a lot of rigidity to the frame, and add some weight down low, to give this thing a little bit lower center of gravity, so we should be able to perform just a little bit better on the course. So I started that kind of off camera. I started getting this piece welded in. I need to do a little bit more cleaning up and get it welded in a bit more. And then I need to cut this other plate to size. I don't want them overlapping like they were in the car. So I'm going to get this one cut down to the size that I want to go ahead and patch up this spot in the floor here. That being said, I also put a little bit of thought into how I want to get the body secured to the frame a little bit better. I haven't figured out for the whole body yet, but I did put some thought into what I want to do back here. So back here, the frame does sit close enough to the body to where I think I can get some decent little body mounts put together. So the plan is, went to the store and picked up just a bit of metal and stuff to use for some things. I'm excited. I'm going to use these shelving angle brackets just to secure the body a little bit better. I might have to trim them down a little bit. I'm not entirely sure how I want them to fit, but I'm thinking, something like that maybe, just to get the frame and the body attached a little bit better. And then depending on how these work, while I have these, before I get them secured in somewhere, I'm going to try to fit them around a couple different other places throughout the car just to see if it's a good solution to mount the body to the rest of the car, or if I want to figure out a different solution for kind of the midsection in the front. But yeah, I picked up those, and then I picked up some other scrap metal, or not scrap metal, brand new metal that we can use. I've got some sheet metal that we can use to maybe patch up a couple of spots, fix a few little things. And then I got this to help kind of fill in some gaps if we want to fill some stuff up. There was a couple of things kind of similar to that already in the car. Like you can see up here, there's a little piece of metal in there. That's just a piece of flat bar that was stuffed in there. So I may do something like that with the flat bar that I bought. Just kind of stuff into some little gaps and openings, welded in place. That way I'm not using as much body filler to fill some stuff, and it adds a little bit of structural integrity to the whole car. Picked up some rebar. This will be for if I need to fabricate something, mount or a bracket or a handhold or something. That's going to be in a little bit more visible of a spot in the car somewhere. I figured it'd look kind of cool just to use rebar rather than anything else. And then some angle iron as well, just to help make mounting brackets or whatever I end up needing to make as we continue knocking out this project. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Got a lot more body work and stuff to do. And then possibly sometime this weekend, if not next weekend, I'm going to be picking up some more blades for the Sawzall and a couple little bits and pieces and odds and ends I need to go ahead and finish getting the motor out of this so that we can go ahead and get this whole car pushed out of here off to the scrap yard and just solely focus on the new build. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to start at the time lapse and get working. update. Got that panel welded in, about as welded as it's going to get. I did get some advice though. I was talking with my dad, who's got so much more welding experience than I do, while I was doing this and coming across all these problems of burning holes and just not being able to get a good weld. I was thinking I needed a welder that had that could go lower in voltage. He let me know that the actual solution to try first is a smaller wire. I've got a fairly thick wire in there, so he said smaller wire probably works. So I'll probably wait to do the body mounts until I get some smaller wire in there. Now, a couple of things I wanted to mention about the car before I take my break and go inside till it cools off, because it is freaking hot. I think it's up to 95 now here in the shop, and it is about 101 outside almost. So yeah, it's hot. Anyways, car. Didn't mention this in the beginning of the video. I know I was talking about possibly doing some different types of body mount situations, and I had gotten these brackets that I was going to throw on the back side of the car, and I think that I changed my mind. I think I want to use these in the midsection of the car, which will look something like that. I don't know if I'm holding the camera quite right, but it's going to be welded down to the frame there and then welded up against the body here. So that's what I'm going to do with those brackets, and that's where I'm going to get the smaller wire. Get a little bit smaller wire, and I should be able to get some decent welds on these to hold the body in place a little bit sturdier. What I'm going to do for the back side of the car, I think, is I'm going to get this flat bar here. It'll either be this flat bar, or I might get a thicker flat bar, and I'll make my own brackets, because it's kind of a weird angle. It's not quite a right angle back there with the way that I want to do those mounts. So I think I'm going to get a thicker piece of flat bar and kind of cut and bend and make my own brackets for it, and then I'll weld those in place in the back. And then I'll probably use that same flat bar to make some smaller body mounts to kind of go up in here, kind of behind this quarter panel there. Do that to try to get some better welds going in there. Another thing that I was going to mention that I forgot to at the beginning of the video. So I posted pictures of this car in a local car group that's all about classic cars, because I was thinking this is 3 different cars put together, just the way that it's all welded and the way that it looks. I was thinking that the hood was off of a different car, the grill was off of a different car, and the body was from a different car. I actually found and got in touch with one of the previous owners of the car. Turns out this thing is not 3 different cars put together, and it's not a 40s Chevy coupe. This is a 37 Ford coupe is what this whole thing is, and it's the whole car, the hood and the grill, everything. This is all off of a 37 Ford coupe. The only part of this that's not the Ford coupe is going to be the steering rack, the frame, the firewall. That's all out of an S10. As well as the running gear and all that. And then, of course, this piece back here, I have no idea what this came off of. This was done by the previous owner, to the guy that I found. But it's clearly just a hood out of a newer car, probably like an early 2000s car. But that's what the vehicle is. It is not a 30s or 40s Chevy coupe with a bunch of other parts. This is a 37 Ford coupe. That's what we're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and snap a couple of pictures for the Instagram. Be sure you go follow the Instagram, Nemo's Garage Official. And then I'm going to go work on some video editing for a while, eat some lunch, and I'll come back out here and keep working on my car once it cools down a bit, because I am sweating. It is way, way too hot in here. I need to get, as far as the shop goes, I need to get an air conditioner. We're coming up on the end of summer, and it's going to be winter soon, so I'm not too worried because I've got the nice heater up there. But as you can see, 95 degrees with no air conditioning, working with, welder and grinder and all that. Yeah, it's not fun. So air conditioner in the future. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and snap a couple of pictures, take a break. I'll come back out here and you'll see me again once it cools down a little bit, and we will keep cracking away. I think the next thing that I already mentioned is going to be that floor panel. So we're going to work on getting that floor panel installed, and I'm hoping to get all that done by tonight, and then tomorrow we can crack away working on some other stuff, possibly get back over here and start working on getting the engine out, or do some other work on the car itself. So catch you a little later. calling it quits for the night. Been working all day on this thing and also working on editing the first video of me actually having this car in here. I'll give you a quick rundown of what I did, and then we'll pick back up tomorrow. So I went ahead and I cut down that other steel plate, cut this chunk off. After cutting that with an angle grinder, yeah, I need a plasma cutter. Definitely need a plasma cutter because that was awful. Started welding this in. My light died, so hopefully the camera picks this up okay. I got a little bit of a weld in there and some welding in there. I need to fill that in a little bit more and then go ahead and finish that out. Like I said, I'm going to pick that back up tomorrow. Yeah, I feel like I probably did something else, but I'm exhausted, so I'm going to cut it off there. We'll jump right back into it tomorrow. Alright, another quick update. Went ahead and pulled those little sidebar things off the car. I was just going to keep the time drops rolling, but I wanted to give a shout out. Real good buddy of mine from the military contacted me early this morning. He's on the other side of the world right now. Said he watched the first video we put out on this car. He was super excited about the build and wanted to see an engine in it so badly that he sent me some money to buy the things that I needed. So we got fresh jack stands, fresh floor jack, a couple other little bits and pieces, blades for the Sawzall, a new sanding disc, and a drain pan so we can get the oil out of that motor. So super thankful to good friends that are willing to do that kind of stuff. But now we can really get this show going. I did put one of the bigger sanding discs on this thing. This is like a 40 grit, I think. 40 grit sandpaper. And that made a lot better work of these welds up here that were real thick that I was trying to get off. So took care of one of those over there, took care of this, cleaned up a couple more of the welds. And then of course we got these little sidebars off. I'm not really sure what those were supposed to do. They weren't really structural in any way. They weren't really protecting anything, so I just got rid of them. Yeah, you can see this side here too. Took that bar off of there. I burned through a lot of saw blades. I don't know what kind of welding wire the previous owner was using, but that stuff was real hard to saw through. So I got two burned out blades down there, and another burned up one here. This one's not too bad. I could probably use this if I bend it back into shape. But the other two are completely like teeth melted off of them. So again, don't know what kind of welding wire he used, but it's real tough stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get to unboxing the new stuff. And then we're gonna go ahead and kind of switch gears for a little bit. I got some more welding to do in here on this floor, but we'll probably do that off camera. For now, we're gonna go ahead and switch gears. I'm gonna go ahead and get that floor jack unboxed, get this thing a little bit higher off the ground, and start working on trying to tear the rest of this out of here. Now that I got fresh blades for the saw and everything else, we should be able to go ahead and get this motor pulled out of here pretty quick. And then it'll be on to trying to get this thing out of here to make room in here for the engine rebuild, as well as I've got another car coming. No plans for it yet. I haven't even had a chance to look at it, and I don't know exactly what it is, but a buddy of mine said he's got a Jeep that broke down, motor needs rebuilt, and he's just going to take it to the scrapyard unless I want it. So getting another vehicle, which we might do something with, further down the road, but I really just need to get this thing out of here. It's big, it's bulky, it's ugly. So I'm gonna pull the motor out of it, and we're gonna get this thing off to the scrapyard as quickly as possible, get started on the rebuild, and start working on trying to track down the rest of the little bits and pieces that we're gonna need to make this thing run with that motor. So let's jump back into it. quick update. I've been working at this for quite a while. It is really, really close to coming out, but God, I hate Fords. Everything in here is so tight. Trying to get the motor mounts undone, I had to hop onto an online forum and talk to people because I could not figure out how they worked. And as far as I could tell, it was looking like I was going to have to drop the whole K-member, and I really did not want to do that. That was, yeah. But luckily, thanks to some guys on some forums, I figured out that there are bolts on the front of the motor mounts that you can take out. They're just really hard to get to. They were like, yeah, just take off the power steering pump and the AC condenser. Problem is, with how tightly everything's packed in there, you can't take off the power steering pump or the AC condenser without taking the block out or dropping the K-member, which we're, trying to avoid all that. But I figured it out. Motor mounts are loose. Pretty much everything is disconnected. At this point, I've run into 2 issues. I was trying to get an extra set of hands in here. Didn't work out. But I am going to keep working on it tonight. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get this thing pulled out of the car. Well, let me show you what we're working with. So, first things first, I'll show you in here. I had to clean out the inside of the car a little bit. Oh. All right. So, down in there you can see that little, well, I don't have enough hands for this thing here. That's the shifting linkage. I need to get this end cut off so that this cable can freely pull out of here. I think that's the best solution. But I may also have to disconnect it from the underside of the car. I'm not entirely sure. Problem is, that cable is practically indestructible. I've tried cutting it with the Sawzall. I've tried cutting it with my sheet metal shears, and it doesn't want to cut. So that's one issue that we're working with there. The other issue, while I was fighting trying to get the motor out with that cable attached, I realized, and I don't know if I can pick this up on the camera. Hopefully you can see it okay down there, but the steering rack runs between the exhaust and the motor, and normally that wouldn't really be that big of an issue. Problem is, both headers connect together into a Y-pipe, and I can't unbolt the exhaust because when I put the exhaust on, I accidentally stripped one of the bolts. It's something we're going to have to deal with once everything's pulled out because there's just not enough space to work in there. That being said, it's going to catch on the steering rack, and I don't want to cut the steering rack, one, because it's a big solid piece of metal and that's just going to take absolutely forever. The other reason is I want to be able to push this thing out of the garage once I get the motor out of it. I want to get it out of the way, clean all this up, and then this whole area here is going to be kind of the engine building spot. I'm going to set up a couple of tables and then we'll start tearing the engine apart. So yeah, I need to be able to steer the car when I push it out. So, the next 2 things that we need to do is I need to find some way to get that the shifting linkage disconnected out from the bottom of the car or from the inside of the car. I've got to get all that disconnected and unhooked. That way the transmission can pull out. Drive shaft is not an issue. It's a slip fit into the transmission. So once I pull the engine and transmission forward, it'll fall out. It's already almost all the way out as it is. Because the engine is further forward than normal. I got it up and out just a little bit. But then the other thing that we've got to do is I need to figure out the exhaust. I think that I'm probably going to have to jack up this side of the car a little bit higher and crawl under there with the Sawzall and cut the exhaust as close to the header as possible, just to free all that up and allow me to get the engine to pull out without catching on the steering rack. So those are the 2 big things that we're trying to hurdle right now. But like I said, I'm really hoping to try to get this thing out before I go to bed tonight. That would be huge. So we're going to keep plugging away trying to get this thing out. As soon as we get it out, transmission is going to come off of the back of it, and I'm going to try to possibly get the transmission back into the car. I may keep the transmission out and try to sell it separately. It needs rebuilt though, so I don't know who's going to want to buy a transmission that's already shot. We'll see though. I don't know. I'll figure that out when we come to it, but the main thing is just trying to get this engine out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip back to the time lapse. I'm going to keep cracking away at this, and hopefully we get it out tonight. Alright, update video. I'm a bit winded. That transmission did not want to come off. And also, note to self, despite there not being a drain bolt in the transmission, I probably should have tried to drain the transmission first. Because I made one hell of a mess. Alright. Engine's out. Transmission's on the floor. And a puddle of transmission fluid. There's also, well, the camera's going to pick that up, but there's transmission fluid everywhere down there. Once the drive shaft came out, transmission fluid dumped out the rear of the trans. And then once I finally managed to get the transmission off of the engine, I dumped even more fluid everywhere. That being said, motor's out. Motor is out of the car. It is separated from the transmission. That was a lot of work. I'm realizing as of right now that this video is getting real long. I've already filled up 3 full SD cards with footage. Granted, most of that's time lapses, but it's been a lot of work, a lot of filming. So I'm going to cut the video off here, off camera, while I'm working on editing and all that. Probably tomorrow I'm going to work on getting this place cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to try to get that transmission somehow back into the car somewhere. I'm going to get the car on its wheels, and then I'm going to move the Subaru. I'm going to get this car pushed outside. I'm really not worried about people trying to steal stuff off of it or steal the car itself. I could care less. The rest of this is junk, and after the experience of trying to take that out of the car, I hate Fords. No offense to this Ford. This Ford's nice, but it's nice because it's old and I'm going to build it. I don't know what the hell this shit is, but it's not right. It's not right. If you're ever thinking about buying a Ford, just don't, or be prepared to pay a shop to do hours and hours of labor, because that was just way more complicated than it needed to be. There was way too many extra parts and pieces, and I am so glad, now that I've gotten to this point, I am so glad that I decided not to build this car into something, and I decided to buy something like this, because this is just horrible. It really is. So, but I'm going to go ahead and end the video off there. I am exhausted. I've been working 2 full days on this video. It's been just a lot. But the engine is out. I've got a lot of body work done here. I've got the floor welded in. I've got the engine out, transmission separated. We're ready to do some cleanup, some reorganizing, start moving on to the next step. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I'll see you guys in the next one.